the traffic groups as well. So let me remove the traffic group 2 first, delete. It says cannot be deleted because of there are some components which are part of the traffic group 2, right? So what I will do, I'll just go to device group. I'll remove LTM2 format because it is used by HA order on traffic group. Oh my god. Ah, okay, guys. No problem. Leave it, right, guys? I can keep it, and still we can perform our practicals, right? So what I want, what I want to perform is, so first today, like I'll continue with the I rules first, right, guys? So first I'll teach you the I rules. Thereafter I'll talk about some other stuff, right, guys? So to learn about the I rules, give me one sec, please. All right. So what I said is, like today we are going to continue with the I rules, right, guys? So first let me perform some testing here. If we are able to access our applications, and that's something that I'll perform from my client machine, right, guys? So the moment, and let me enable my video. All right. So if I access 525.5, I shall be able to access that, those services. All right. You can see that we are able to access that. So we are perfectly doing it, right? There is no issue with accessing this web page, especially, right, guys? So everything is working perfectly. We do not have any issues with the ongoing service. So although we have multiple virtual servers, like even we have a virtual server having IP address like 5556 as well, and then 5557, and we can perform testing for each and every virtual server. But that's fine. Like we do have access for 5.5.5.5, which means that we should have access for others as well. So that's fine. So let's start with the I rules. So you can see, guys, that there are, I mean, under LTM, if you go to I rules and then if you go to I rule list, so you can see that there are various I rules pre-configured, right? There are pre-configured I rules which are created by the F5, and in fact, you can get more and more I rules over F5 website as well. So if you go and visit F5's website, you can find more and more I rules, right, guys? So, for example, if you say I rule F5 LTM I rule examples, right, guys? So you can see that we have a website called devcentral.f5.com, and then you can just go through that introduction to I rules Dev Central, right? So you can go to this Dev Central website, and then you can just go through the introduction to the I rule. So you will get a lot of examples of the I rules. Remember that I rule is very uh, like I would say is pretty important in case of F5, and also it is pretty handy tool and very important tool in F5, right? And also it it makes easy your work, right? It makes your work much easier. How? Like for example, if you have some requirements and you do not have those options, or you do not have uh, I mean, you do not have, or your TMOS doesn't have that capability to fulfill that requirement, right, guys? Like you have some tasks to do, but you cannot perform the task using your GUI or maybe using some CLI commands, right? You cannot do that. So if you have something to do which you cannot perform using GUI console or maybe CLI console, in that case, you can go for the I rules, and you can utilize your I rules to fulfill your requirements, right? And that's where it becomes really um, important, right? So you guys, you can just go through it. Let me just copy and paste this link with all of you so that you can refer this link later on, because this is not something that you can understand in a single day. And iRule is all about the TCL scripting. So I'm not going to teach you TCL scripting. I'll just teach you the uses of iRule, that you can how you can leverage the iRules to fulfill the requirements. So we will set up some requirements, and thereafter we will go for the iRules and we will use them, and we will perform our task. So you can see what is an iRule. So iRule, it is in its most simple terminology, is a script that executes against network traffic passing through the F5 device, and that's pretty vague. Though let's try and define a bit more about what actually occurs within an iRule. The idea is pretty straightforward. iRule gives you capability to write simple network-aware piece of code that will influence your network traffic in a variety of ways. So wherever you want to influence the traffic that is passing through your big IP, you can go ahead and you can utilize the iRule. There are so many options which are available, which you can configure using GUI as well as CLI console. So if you have something to do and that you can achieve by using GUI or CLI console, go for that. Never go for iRule. That's recommended by F5. So if you have something available that you can configure using GUI or CLI, then you should not go for the iRule, right? So whether you are looking to do some form of custom persistence or rate limiting that is not currently available within the product's built-in options. So if you have something which is not available inside the product's built-in options, then go for the I rules. If you have something available over the product itself, then never go for the I rules. So looking to completely customize the user experience by granularly controlling the flow or even the contents of the given sessions packet, or that's what iRule was built for. Okay, so that's what you can read about the iRules, right, guys? So let me just go back to my like just a moment. Let me open up the F5 LTM PPTs. So IAPS, we have already covered that, right, guys? And thereafter, I have to start with the iRules, right, guys? Just a moment. That's about the CLI. I'm looking for the iRules. That's about the packet filtering. That's for something we have already done. High rules. That's part two. I'm looking for part one actually. But let me start from here itself, right? So if you look at this, right, guys. So what is it saying? Like, I mean, that's an example that they have set here for the I rules, right, guys? So what they say is that when client SSL handshake, like if the SSL handshaking is done, and if the remote IP address is equal to this IP address, then I must select this pool only. Similarly, you can see here, if client is accepted, like the three-way handshake is completed with the client, right? Then I have to set my port, TCP local port, and then log local 0. I mean, that's what I want to perform logging, right? And thereafter, the port should be switched, right? 80 and SNAT should be in place, and then pool should be selected like this. And for 443, it should select SNAT pool this and pool this, right? So, I mean, that's an example. I'll come back and, I'll just explain you that what's happening there, right, guys? But before that, I want to make you understand the basics of the I rule. That's what my target is. Have to look at this again. I mean, there should be some first initial chapter for the basics of the I rules. Hey, one more thing I would like to show you first. I mean, even before I start with the I rules. Guys, always remember that if you are using active standby failover, right? And if you really want to synchronize the connection table, right? Then you have to go to virtual servers, right, guys? And under virtual server, you have to select one option. If you want to synchronize the connection table, right? Like whatever connection table has over the active unit should be available on standby unit as well. For that purpose, you need to go to your virtual server, and under virtual server, go to advanced configuration, and thereafter, you should have one option over here is to perform connection mirroring. Look at this. That's where you have to select the option. It may degrade the performance when enabled. That's fine, but this is an option from where you can enable the synchronization of the connection table as well, right? So if you really want that, if your active unit is having some sort of connections in its connection table and you want that to be available on the standby unit as well, then select this option. In similar way, you can synchronize the persistence table as well. So for that, go to profile, go to persistence, right? And thereafter, if you are creating a persistence type of profile, and especially not cookies, because cookie is not something which is stored by the big IP locally. But for source IP address, as you know, you must remember that for source IP address, like big IP was creating a persistence table and it was creating local entries in its persistence table. So in that condition, you can say mirror persistence under source persistence profile, right? So I mean source address persistence profile. So if you are creating a profile for which, I mean, if you are creating a persistence profile for which big IP creates a local persistence table and creates an entry over there, then you can select, or you will have to select mirror persistence, so that if active unit is having some records in its persistence table, same you can find over standby unit. But you have to select that option. By default, it's not selected. That's what I wanted to let you know before I proceed with the I rules. So guys, let me go back and let me start with the basics of the I rules, right? Here you go. That's what I was looking for. That's the basic structure of the I rule. So as I told you before, that I rule, you will be using them only and only in that condition where you have something to do, but you don't have that option available, right? You don't have that option available using GUI. For example, I have two different pools, and you know very well that how to create the pools and what's the meaning of pool. You know very well that pool will always consist a group of members, which is also known as pool member, right, guys? So if you have multiple pools, but it is not really, if it is not really possible for you to connect or to attach multiple pools to a single virtual server. Like there is no option to do so, right, guys? So if you have a virtual server, you can attach only one pool at one time. Like if you go to resources, so default pool, there is an option of allocating only default pool. There is nothing like secondary pool, fallback pool, nothing like that, right? So in LTM, focus on my words. In LTM, if you are creating a virtual server, you can attach only one pool to your virtual server. That's the limitation, right, guys? Now, if you want, then I mean, if you want to use multiple pools for a single virtual server, is it possible using GUI or using some sort of pre-built, I mean, built-in options onto your big IP? No, it is not possible. Is there any other way to do so? Yes, we can do that by the help of I rule, like this. You can create your I rule in this way. So it's a TCL scripting basically, right? I'm not going to teach you the TCL scripting, but this is how we can leverage I rules, and I rules uses TCL scripting, and this is how we can leverage it for utilizing two different pools on a single virtual server. So you know that your virtual server is already using a pool known as customer pool. But what I wanted, that if I have a client IP address starting with 10, let's say any client IP address, like if any client is coming to access my virtual server and their IP address is starting with 10, then it must, I mean, their request should go to this pool and everything else should go to this pool, right? So this is something that you can do using iRules only. This is not something which you can achieve by utilizing built-in options onto this big IP. And that's why I said like I rules are pretty important, right? So using I rules, maximum you can achieve whatever you want, and which is something which is not available or which is not part of your um, built-in options of big IP, right? So whenever you think that you have a requirement and which you cannot achieve using the built-in options of your big IP, then go for the I rule. And in that condition only you should go for the I rule, right, guys? So in this condition, you had these two different pools. You had only one virtual server created on this big IP. By default, you cannot attach more than one pool to a single virtual server. That's the limitation that you have over the LTM, right? But using I rules, that's something which is possible, right? So using I rule, you can use multiple pools like this. So what you said, when client accepted. So when I say client accepted, it's an event which will occur upon once three-way handshake is completed with the client. You know very well that Big IP works as a full proxy, right? When you have selected a standard type of virtual server, right? So it will work as a full proxy, like it will be creating a separate connection table for the clients and a separate connection table for the server. So first client is gonna hit your virtual server, and virtual server will respond back to the client. So once three-way handshake is completed with the clients, that event or that condition is known as client accepted. So the meaning of client accepted is that you have established the three-way handshake with the client. Post that, if you see that the client IP address starts with 10, like the first octet of the IP address is 10, then I'm going to use this pool, right? Else I'll be using customer pool, right? So we had these two different pools, and we can utilize both of the pools using I rules, like in this way, right? So it's kind of it's sort of load balancing, right? It's sort of load balancing. So even in production environment, you can leverage all these options in this way. Like for example, if we have like we have different pools. For example, if client is using Mozilla Firefox, right, browser, then we have a different pool. For Google Chrome, we have a different pool. For Safari, we have a different pool. You get my point? For Internet Explorer, we have a different pool of servers, right, guys? So based on that, also you can perform the load sharing. In fact, if any client is coming from the mobile phone, it's coming from the mobile phone, like operating system is Android, then we should use a separate pool which is dedicated only for the mobile users. You get my point? So that is something which you cannot utilize, or which you cannot perform by utilizing the existing options onto your big IP. So for that purpose, you would always require to have iRules in place. Even you can perform a lot more using iRules. Like for example, you want to drop traffic for certain from a particular client or from certain IP addresses. Again, you can go ahead and you can utilize the I rule that, hey, if remote IP address matches with this IP address, then I'm going to drop the traffic. Or maybe you want to perform URL redirection. So when I say URL redirection, it's like I want to perform redirection. You remember that we did it from, we did redirection from HTTP to HTTPS. In similar way, we can also perform redirection from one URL to another URL. For example, if I want to block the access for my Facebook.com website, right? So if someone within my organization is trying to access Facebook.com, then it should get dropped or it should get blocked. So what I have to do is I have to create an I rule. I cannot do that using my pre-built options onto my big IP, right? So, using built-in options, I cannot do that. But using iRule, yes, it is possible to even block a particular URL. Or maybe you could redirect those users trying to access Facebook.com onto your blog page. Like you have some blog page content available somewhere on one of the URL, right? So what you can do, if someone is trying to access Facebook.com, you can redirect that user onto blog page. So that blog page will be displayed in front of the end user. So end user can easily understand that, hey, this website is blocked, right? I'm not allowed to access this website. So that is something that you can achieve using iRules. Okay. So I have given you a few examples over here. Like for example, you want to perform URL redirection, you want to perform HTTP to HTTPS redirection, you want to you want to utilize multiple pools in multiple scenarios, right? Thereafter, you can even utilize this iRules to perform logging as well. To perform logging, let's say I'm doing some sort of troubleshooting, and there is a end user who is complaining that they cannot access the network resources, and those network resources are hosted behind my virtual server, right? So what I can do, I can see if the traffic is being hit from that particular client by creating an I rule and to perform logging for that particular user. So even I can ask my end user, hey, what IP address you are using, what port number you are using, and for that particular IP and the port number, I can enable logging onto my system. And thereafter, I can look at the logs. If I'm getting logs, which means your client is speaking truth, because client said like I'm not able to access this application and I'm okay, like everything is okay from my side. So it will really help you out during troubleshooting as well. This is one of the examples that how you could leverage iRules to fix your issues, right, guys? So that's how you're gonna start with the iRules, right? So iRule concept and syntax, this is what I'm going to discuss now. So ideally, if you talk about the iRule, iRules often select pools, right? In most cases, you will be using it for selecting the pools, as I given you a lot of examples. Like for Mozilla Firefox users, you will be having different pool. For Safari, you will be having different pool. For the mobile users, you will be having different pools. Even you can say, I mean, for the different geolocations, you can have different pools. Like in iRules, you can define that, hey, I know that IP address starting with 200 will come from India, right? So for Indian users, I want to have a different pool. So even you can perform in that way, okay? So basically, while creating an iRule, there are three components which are really important, right? Which are really important to be considered. Let me just tell you. Just a moment. So in iRules, you would always have three major components, and the components would be, okay, it's done. Fine. So first, it's your event. You have to decide that against which event you wanna execute your iRule. Second, you will have to put your conditional statement. Third action, even you can bypass your conditional statement. You can also say, hey, if this event occurs, I will take this action, right? But this is what you are going to perform. Like this is the basic, pretty basic of the iRule. These are the basics of the iRule. So when event, so this is event. Like if this event occurs, like client accepted. So when I say client accepted, which means the three-way handshaking with the client is being completed. Or I can say LB selected. So when I say LB selected, which means load balancing has been performed and pool member has been selected. Or if I say SSL handshake, which means when SSL handshaking event is getting occurred, and if, which means this is my conditional statement. So if this matches, then I'm gonna go ahead and take this action, right? So these three components are pretty important while creating the iRules: event, conditional statements, and actions, right? Now I'll teach you that which all different types of events you have. There is a lot. There are a lot of events, but I'll tell you like what are mainly used in production environment, right? Like client accepted, as I said. So client accepted is like once you have done the three-way handshaking, and when you receive first data packet from the client, that's client data. When you receive the HTTP request from the client, which means that's HTTP request, and that would be considered as a client data, or you could say HTTP request, HTTP responses. So these all are events, right, guys? LB selected is also an event. Server connected, once you have performed three-way handshake with the server, right? Server data is like kind of HTTP response, right? So this is also one of the event. So events will occur in a sequence in case of big IP. Like if client is gonna hit your virtual server, so first it will be client accepted, then HTTP request maybe you received. However, if you are applying different profiles, then the sequence might get also changed by applying the different profiles to your virtual server. And I have already discussed with you that what kind of changes could occur by applying the different profiles to your virtual server, right, guys? So the meaning of client accepted is just to perform the three-way handshaking, just to complete the three-way handshake with the client. By receiving the HTTP request is like client data, and thereafter LP selected. Like if you have selected the pool member, that's called LP selected. And once you have performed the three-way handshake with that selected pool member, that's called server connected. And then server data is like kind of HTTP response, right, guys? So these all are the events. So some events are for the client side, and some events are meant for server side. So this is your servers. These all are server side events, and these all are your client side events, right, guys? There are so many events, remember, for the client side as well as for the server side. And these are the important ones which we will be using, which we will be utilizing for iRules creation, like this. So you could say browser type, right? Root browser type. Like if you receive HTTP request and then user agent contains MSIE, MSIE is Microsoft Internet Explorer, then I must select this pool. If my user agent is Mozilla, then I must select this pool. And for everything else, I have another pool, right, called other browser. I must select that. So that's how you could create the HTTP, HTTP based iRule, right? But I mean, to perform or to apply this iRule, remember that it is mandatory for your big IP to perform HTTP inspection. Because if your big IP is not performing HTTP inspection, then it will be difficult, in fact, impossible, right, guys, to open up your HTTP packet or HTTP request and to identify all these components, right? So if you do not apply HTTP profile to your virtual server, then it will not happen, or this iRule will not take place, or this iRule will not be applicable for your virtual server unless you apply the HTTP profile to your virtual server. Because I have already told you that if you really want your virtual server to perform inspection for the HTTP based data, then it is mandatory for us to allocate the HTTP kind of profile to your virtual server. But this is that how you can create the iRule. So this is an event, like when you receive HTTP request. An HTTP request will be received upon client accepted. Like once client has been accepted, then only you can receive the HTTP request. So that's how you can create the iRules. And these all are the examples for creating iRules, right, guys? Thereafter, you can say sample capture for iRule processing, like this, right? This is one of an example of creating the iRule. Like iRule, if URI ends with txt, then I'm gonna select this pool. And if URI, yeah, of course, one more thing that I would like to discuss with you, along with these three components that I discussed before, like event, conditional statement, and the action. Other than that, you should also be aware with URL, what is URL, what is URI, what is host portion, what is query. You get my point? These all of, you must be aware with this whole stuff, right? And then thereafter, what is your path? So when you talk about a URL, everything, you can find everything over there, right, guys? So for example, if I have accessed any website over here, let me go back. Let me just close this PPT slideshow. If I have access to this page, if I open up it in a notepad, right, guys? So this entire, this entire is, or will be known as a URL. This is called URL. And this devcentral.fi.com, this portion is called host portion. This is called host portion. And this entire host portion, you would have URI. Would have what? URI. This is all is about URI. Okay, guys. So this is called URI. And the path and the query will also be part of your URI. So URL is meant by combining the host portion, host plus URI, and URI is combination of query. It's a combination of path plus query. That's your URI, right? And combinedly, it is all URL that we should be aware of. Okay. So using iRule, you can redirect only URI or only host portion, or maybe path portion, or maybe query portion. So it's up to you. What do you want? But this is what you should be knowing about the URL. So in iRules, there are three major things. One, event, second, conditional statement, and third is action like this. So event, when you receive an HTTP request, this is your event, right guys? This is your event. This is your conditional statement. If user agent contains Microsoft Internet Explorer, and this is your action, I'll select pool, this pool. Right guys? So that's how you would make it happen. Thereafter, this is another example. If URI ends with text, right? I'm gonna select this pool. Else, I'll be selecting this pool. You know, sometimes you have your text files available onto a different pool members or different pool, and you have um, your pictures available on a different pool, right guys? So based on HTTP request, like if it is requesting for the pictures, then I should redirect them to a different pool. So that's how you can configure that. Okay. Configuring iRule, you can go to devcentral.fi.com. This is what I told you, right? Everything is free of cost. You should log in to your devcentral using your credentials, and I mean, all the resources are free resources. And this is how you can configure it, right? So you can see that if it is ending with the text, then it will be redirected to that pool, right? So that's how we can perform the labs for iRules, right? So that's the basics of the iRules. Now let me apply some basic iRules in front of you, right guys? So what I will do over here, I have a client IP, and client is coming with a public IP address postnet, and which is 11.1.1.1, right guys? So what I can say, let me log in back. Let me create few iRules in front of you and let me apply them. iRules. Create one. And there are in fact two different ways of creating iRules. One, you can create it over the big IP itself, and the other way is to create iRule using iRule editor, and which is more like beneficiary to use to utilize the iRule editor for creating the iRules. You just have to connect your iRule editor with your big IP, and that you can do by utilizing the management IP itself. Okay, so let me just connect my iRule editor with my big IP. So I could leverage either iRule editor or maybe, um, you know, so here you go. This is iRule editor. Go to file and then say connect. Provide your IP address of your big IP. That's 2.245. Thereafter, username is admin and the password is like imedita@123. Connect to it. So now your iRule editor. So it says like invalid. It's imedita@123. What is that? 2.245, right? enable. I mean, I could just show you like if I would have accessed this iRule editor, or if I was able to connect my iRule editor with my local big IP, I must have used this iRule editor itself. So this is one of the applications provided by the F5 only for creating the iRules, right? And also you can have some iRule references, right? And you can also visit Dev Central for the iRules. Okay, guys. So let me just close it and let me create the iRules locally onto the big IP itself. So let me assign some name to here, like test iRule, right, guys? Test iRule 1. And now let me just create it like when, right, guys? HTTP underscore request is coming from, right, guys, like this. HTTP request bracket start, right? And thereafter you can put your conditional statement like if, right, guys, bracket start once again, and then another bracket, and then say IP dual colon client address like this, bracket close, right? You could say equals, right, equals to what? 11.1.1, I believe. That's the client IP address, public IP, yes. 11.1.1, if it matches with this IP address, I'm gonna close this bracket, right, guys? Thereafter, I'll open up one more bracket here, and then I'll take the action. So that was my conditional statement, and now I'll be taking my action. So let's say action is drop, right, guys? So drop, and thereafter bracket close, and one more time bracket close. Now finish it. So if you had some issues, right, then it will not allow you to save your syntax. So it was equal, I have made it equals. Yeah, it has saved now. So previously I had equal, so that syntax was incorrect. So it should have been equals, right, guys? So I have dropped the HTTP request coming from this client address. And you know that my client will always come from this public IP itself, since NAT is configured onto customized router. So let me go back to my big IP, and let me go back to my virtual servers that I'm utilizing here. And I have to attach this iRule to that virtual server. And to do so, because I created my virtual servers using IAP, so I have to go back to my IAP. So now go to IAP application services, and here I have HTTPS virtual server. This is fine. Go and edit that. We will have to reconfigure that so that we can call that iRule that we have just created here. Right, guys? So reconfigure. Give it a moment. Oh my God. Secret utilization is quite high. But let me do one thing. At least I can shut down these three routers. So we configure. Yep. Say advance. And thereafter, say advanced configurable objects, and we should have iRules. We must have this is iRule, right, guys? And you can see the test iRule is there, right? So let me call that over here. This is what I was looking for, right? So it was just in bottom, right? So at bottom, we had this option iRules. Go ahead, finished it. Now my big IP must drop the request coming from that client, the HTTP requests. Give it a moment. This iRule will get applied to it. Fine, let it be. And let me go back to my virtual servers where we can verify if it was applied. So HTTP virtual server, and then we can go to the resources. Or else I'll just create this virtual server by my own quickly. So go to resources. It's not there. So what I will do, let me go back to the IAP services and let me delete them quickly. Come back to your virtual server and then create one of the virtual server. HTTP VS1 destination address 555 port TP profile has to be there, right, guys? HTTP profile is mandatory, and then iRules. We create a test iRule. I have called that. I'm also enabling automap. I am also allocating the default pool. Finished, and you are done. Now you go back to your client machine, and from client machine, perform testing. Refresh your page 5.5.5, and this time you need to hit over port 80 itself. But this time you should not be able to access your website since we are dropping the HTTP request coming from this server. But we can see that the HTTP request was not dropped from this server. Still, it is able to access. So let us go back and let me check if the iRule is in place. Sources. Yeah, test I rule is already applied. So we will have to see what's the issue. Client address is equals to 11.1.1 and then it should get dropped when HTTP request is from client address. Let me do one more thing here. Let me also generate a log message. Log local 0. And it should be logged as client address is client address, like this. Let me update it now and let me see what happens, right guys? So I have generated a log message over here. So let me see if I'm getting request from this IP address. Yep, server 1, server 3, and let me go back to the big IP. Thereafter, go to system, logs, local traffic. No, it's not. Even log is also not there, which means that my I rule is not working as expected. All right, let's go back to the I rule and let's check what's the issue with that I rule that we have, right? When HTTP request is client address equals to that is not happening. How is it possible? Nice. No NAT. Let me check its IP address. Oh my God. So it's part of the internal network actually. So the IP address should have been allocated from the 10th subnet, right? Make it 10. It's not following the path that it was supposed to follow, right? And that's why it's not matching with the I rule. Let me also see. Let me shut down this. And let me see its settings, because maybe it is part of different switch. It's VMNet 3. It's VMNet 8. Wow. That's why it was not working. So it was not part of the proper switch. But now you could say, then how was it working? Because virtual server was already there. We had a default gateway. So we were able to reach the big IP from this network. You know, it was having 20 subnet IP address. So my end user machine was sitting here, was connected to this switch, and then it was reaching big IP directly. That was the problem. Now everything should be fixed. Also, my HTTP request must be blocked. Yeah, of course, because you are hitting virtual server first, right? You are not directly going to your real servers. You are hitting virtual server, and virtual. If you are hitting virtual server, a pool is associated, and then pool will perform load balancing, right, sir? So now you see, look at this. Now it should go via router, right? It should perform netting. Yeah, it's doing now. You can see that, and we are not getting any response back. Why are not we getting any response back? Because this time I rule is matching here, right? It's triggering this I rule, and based on this I rule, it must get dropped. And even if I, yeah, of course. Like if you go to Windows 7, and if you wanna ping that virtual server IP, you can ping that. Okay, and even you can look at the net table now. ICMP should be there. Yep. Is it clear? Okay, so we are not able to access this web page this time, right? So let me go back to the big IP. And also let me take a look at the logs as well. Logs, local traffic. It's loading. Wait a moment. Oh, maybe I just click overall. So you can see HTTP request from that client, and this is what I typed there. The client's IP address is, and then client IP address. Isn't it, guys? Are you all good with that? So this is the syslog message that we have got here, right? D2, this I rule. If I move up, system, okay, so fine. I mean, that's all good. That's part of the local traffic, and we have got the log message as well. So we have got the log message. We have been blocked. That's good. Now, what I don't want to drop it, but I want to generate a log message, right? So go back to your I rule and edit that I rule. Remove that drop keyword. थी नहीं क्या पहले से कनेक्टिविटी? सिर्फ कैमरे वाली है क्या? Okay. Hey guys, I'm back. I'm sorry. So test I rule. Now let me remove this drop keyword from here and update this I rule. Thereafter, let's go back to the client machine and let me refresh this page. This time you should be able to access your one of the server. Yeah, we are able to access them, right, guys? Perfect. That's good. Now let's go back. The system, logs, local traffic. But this time, using this I rule, you are working at application layer, right, guys? So make sure that HTTP profile is attached to your virtual server, then only this I rule can work. That's what you should always keep in your mind. Yeah. You are getting the log messages. Also, you can see the audit logs, which are to see that what all changes you have made recently here on this box. You can see that. Right, guys? So you can even see the audit logs. So using I rules, now you could also design your I rules in the different manner. You want to create one I rule. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is what I'm coming now, right? So maybe you could say test redirection, right, guys? When HTTP request bracket start, right? So it says if bracket start HTTP host or maybe HTTPS. It's up to you, right? HTTP host, right? Equals to www.facebook.com, right? Bracket close, bracket open. then it should perform HTTP redirection. To whom? HTTP, right? Or maybe HTTPS. It's up to you, right? Maybe you have another page called www.myblogpage.com. Make sense, sir? Close bracket. Remember that what, I mean, the all brackets that you have opened up must be closed. That you should always keep in your mind. Thereafter, go ahead and finish this up. So it says that there are some issues. HTTP redirect. What is it saying? HTTP redirect. HTTP redirect. It says redirect is undefined procedure. Just a moment. Just a sec, please. HTTP redirect. Still the same error. Syntax looks okay to me because that's the only syntax that we have been used. Even here also it's the same HTTP redirect, right? And here it says
Saurav, I think after HTTP, there should be one more column.
I believe so. You're right.
In the HTTP redirect part, I'll see.
Uh-huh. It got accepted. So it was a dual colon here. Let me see that. It was a single over here. Let me check that now once again. Let me remove this and let me try to update it. Yeah, it got it now. Uh-huh. So between HTTP and redirect, we had only one column. However, it should have been dual column, right? So now this is how you would configure it. And this time, if you try to access the facebook.com, it should work perfectly, right? So it should be redirected to this blog page. Now the point is, we are not accessing facebook.com, so we cannot perform this practical, right? What I will do, I'll just say host is 5.5.5. So update, right guys? And thereafter, let me go back to my virtual server and let me change my iRule. Resources, and thereafter change the iRule. Manage. We can also have some, multiple iRules applied to a single virtual server at the same time. And the sequence in which the iRule will be executed will be depending upon the sequence in which you have applied the iRules to your virtual server. So now, earlier from my PC, I was able to access the server one or like that, but this time it should get redirected, but we do not have that page exist anywhere. That's why we will not be able to see anything here, right? Now, to identify whether we were redirected or not, you can see that myblogpage.com is being appeared over here. However, we will not be able to access it because it does not exist in my network. But this is what you could see, that we have been redirected from 5.5.5 to my www.myblogpage.com. Does that make sense to all of you? Great. So you have so many, so many options or so many, like ways of using I rules. Like you can also utilize the I rules to perform SNAT, right? So you go to I rules, create one more test to say when you know client accepted, bracket start, right? Thereafter, if you say if bracket start, client address starts with, there should be some syntax. A moment. Let me try this, right? I'm not sure whether this start with underscore with will work or not, but let me just try to do so, right? Like this. The action should be a snap or maybe auto map like this. Just a moment. A snap, auto map, or maybe we could say then a snap pool over here, like a snap pool, right? And then we could provide the snap pool over here, right, guys? So it's up to you that how do you want to perform it. But this is how you can configure even a snack, right? So you set a snack, auto map, like this. Finished. So it says, so again, syntax error in expression, client address start with. So this is again extra tokens. How? Yeah, it was starts, not the start one. So test two. So that's what you configured, right? So if your client IP address is start with this IP address, then I'm going to perform a snacking. This is what you did. Even you could also see, or you could say that, hey, I want to select pool, right? And I have a pool called web server pool. So you could have any other pool as well, right, guys? So this is how you could apply it. And then you can get it applied to your virtual server. But that's how you are going to create the iRules, right, guys? So remember, the client IP address is also known as remote IP address, right? And like if you are talking about the communication happening in between, so there are two segments actually. One is your client and the virtual server. The other one is virtual server and the real server. This is your real server. So in this segment, remote address will always be your client IP and local address would be your virtual server IP. That you should always keep in your mind. The remote port will be the user's source port number and local port will be the destination port number, the packet that virtual server has received from end user. So that's how you should read it, right? So even you could log your messages in this way. Like for iRule, you could create your iRules in this way as well. So, I mean, you can create some lengthy iRules as well. iRules. So you could say when DP request, right guys, bracket start, then if, right, bracket start, then another bracket start, and then you could say IP colon remote address bracket close, right, equals to, right, to whom? 1.1, which is like if it's containing like, I mean, yes, like you could say one in this way 192.168.1.1 if your client IP address is this, or maybe in our condition it would be 11.1.1. In our condition, that would be remote address. That's the client IP address. And then if you wanna match your port number as well, then first do one thing, close it, and thereafter say and start again, then say TCP local port closed equals, thereafter that's the destination port was 80. Close, bracket close, bracket open. Thereafter, you could take the action. Let's say I wanted to log it. Local 0, and you wanted to say that the client IP address is right. Remote address, bracket close, and then I would say and the virtual server port is bracket start TCP local port bracket close, like this. Like this. Thereafter, so this iRule will help you to generate a log message if the remote address is 11.1.1 and the destination port number is 80. Like if somebody is hitting your virtual server at port 80 from 11.1.1 IP address, then it should generate this log message. So it will really help you out during troubleshooting, right? So let's say set test 3, finished. Okay. Which line you are talking about? Line number 1, 2? So what you are saying? Here? No, I think it is good. It's 0, it's 0. This is good. Invalid local 0 expected.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, it may be the virtual, I mean, we misspelled the virtual server, VIRTAUL.
No, this is just a text message, right? So you could have anything over there. This is also your text message. This is again, you could have anything. But in that text message, I'm going to have the remote address and the local port.
Can we just remove the double inverted commas and keep it with the text only, and then we can,
This one,
yeah. We can keep for the virtual server port is in there, and then we can like log local 0 dot double inverted commas, the client's IP address is double.
now let me just try this. Let me remove this also, as you said. This is removed. This is removed. Let me try it. Okay.
Okay. Log local 0 double inverted comma. Okay, the client IP address is double inverted comma close.
Closed.
No, till is.
Okay, remove.
Okay. On the third line itself, till is the client's IP address is close the
Okay,
double inverted commas there
okay, I got your point.
and start it from here. Yeah, and do
Like
the
this you
same
are
for
saying,
this.
right?
Yes, and do the same for this.
Hmm. I mean, this is something like TCL scripting that I don't usually work on that. So I usually do copy paste for the I rules. You can easily find that. Still the same issue. Just a moment. But this is how you would be creating your I rules, right, guys? So it's something like you will have to make practice a lot for the TCL scripting. I usually don't do that because it's not really needed for me. I can easily get that. So yeah, it's saved now. If you look at there now, so it was already saved, but I just added this inverted commas in the beginning of this line and the in the end of this line. So you can see that it was accepted, and then it should generate cases log message as well, right, guys? So let me do one thing. Let me go back to the virtual servers and let me try to prove it. Here also it was saved now using test 4. So go to resources, manage, remove it, and then go for test 3. Finished. Thereafter, go back to your client machine. This time no redirection should take place, right? And we should have an access to the site. Ah, 5.5.5. Which is good. This is also good. This is also good. Let me go back to the LTM now and then go to system, local traffic. We should have that log message, right? With the IP and the port number. Should be able to see that. All right, so go to last page, which is page number 267. You see that? I mean, wait, still it's not there. It's loading. We should receive the log messages over here along with the IP and the port number. Yeah, is there. Right, guys? Hello? Do you see this syslog message here? I mean, this log
Yes.
message that the client IP address is 11.1.1 and the virtual server port is 80. So you could say something different as well, right? So, I mean, this is how you would approach for creating the I rules, right, guys? So, in fact, if you want to put multiple statements in a single I rule, that is also possible, right? Like, um, let's say you have test 3 statement, We could say log as well as pool, maybe web server pool. Right, and thereafter you could say bracket close, else bracket open, and then maybe pool, and let's say I had a pool with the name of default pool. Bracket close and bracket closed. Update it. There's some issues there. Yeah. So that pool is not there. So let me do one thing. Let me go back quickly and let me create that pool. Right, guys? Is there now? Update it. And it's updated now. Right, guys? So that's how you would do it. So I know in default pool there is only one member, right? There is only one member, and which is server one only. So what I will do, let me change this iRule a little. This is test 3, right? And let me change its IP address is 11.1.3 so that it will not match with my client IP address. Therefore, my client should access the services from this default pool only, because the IP address will not match with that remote IP address, right? Let me check my virtual server if it is configured with iRule test 3. It should be. Wait a moment. Once we are done with iRules, then I'll start with the TCP dump command, right, guys? I'll show you how you can perform the packet capturing onto big IP itself. All right, go to resources. So yeah, it's already test 3. So now if I go back to my client machine, if I refresh pages, so it should be server 1. Yep, refresh it, should be server 1. Refresh it, should be server 1, and it should always be server 1. You know why? Because it will always pick the default pool, and default pool has only one member, which is server 1. Does that make sense to all of you? So that's what you can perform using iRules, right? And I think that is sufficient. Whatever we have performed around iRules. So we have selected different pools, we have redirected, we have dropped the HTTP request messages, right? So this is what we have done. Also, you could perform logging for the load balancing for the pool, as well as for the, you know, the pool and pool member as well, or maybe not. But again, you do it by your own. Like you have to just modify your existing iRules for that, right? So like this is just 3i rule, and you just have to add the log keyword for the pool as well, right? So here you could say like log local 0 dot, and what do you want to log, right? That's your LB dual colon, and then you could select server, and then pool. Bracket close like this. You could update that now. So you could also log that which pool actually got selected over here, right? I mean, I know very well that this is the pool, right? But again, if you want to receive that information within the log message, you can do that like this. Make it 11.1.1 once again, and then update it. Go back to client machine, and this time it should perform normal load sharing. Server 1 should go to some other servers as well. Server 3, that's good. Server 2, yeah, cool. Let's go back and then go to system, log local traffic. Right, guys? So iRules are more around TCL scripting. But whatever you cannot perform using existing options, you can do that by utilizing the iRules. And this is what we did, right, guys? This is what we did. All right, so you can also see the HTTP request, right? It received the HTTP request and it selected this web server pool. You can see that. Is that clear, sir?
Yes.
All right. Now, next I'm going to cover is TCP dump command. And in fact, before that, let me teach you QK view and the uses of iHealth portal. So sometimes you have to, let's say, you want to perform self-check for the configuration that you have made on the big IP, so that you can do using iHealth. For that, you must have a QK view file. So what I'm going to do is, there is an option to generate a new support snapshot. Click on new support snapshot, and there is an option generate and upload QK view to iHealth, or just to generate QK view. So you can say generate QK view and then just say start, so that it can generate a QK view file. In Cisco, if someone has heard about show tech support command, right? In similar way, we have this QK view file over big IP box. So if you have heard about the show tech support command over Cisco devices, this QK view is quite similar to that show tech support command. So it will generate now this QK view file. Thereafter, you go to your iHealth portal, which is also accessible for free. You don't have to pay anything for that, right? So let me just go ahead and let me log into this iHealth portal. If you have your user ID and password over f5.com, log in using your user ID and password over this iHealth portal, like this. So it's a QK view analyzer actually. In nutshell, I can say that your iHealth portal is a QK view analyzer. So when I say QK view analyzer, which means it will analyze whether your device is configured properly or not. To do so, first create your QK view file over your big IP. This is what we are doing now. So it's 45% is already been completed. So once it will generate a QK view file, thereafter I'll go ahead and I will download this QK view file and will upload it over iHealth portal, and then we can, you know, we can analyze this QK view file over iHealth portal. So iHealth portal will display us automatically that these are the warnings, these are the critical issues, right? Like that. So it will display you each and everything about your configuration, right? That you have uploaded over the iHealth portal in the form of QK view file. Okay, so that's how it works. So looks like we have lost access to the big IP device. No worries, it will get restored soon. Taking longer than usual. Guys, able to hear me, or even you have lost my voice as well? Okay, because looks like the hardware resource utilization is quite higher on my laptop. I don't know why is it happening nowadays. Earlier, I never had this kind of issue on my laptop. Maybe I have to format it. Still going on. 95% is completed. So once QKView file is available, we can go ahead and download it, and then we can get it uploaded over iHealth portal, and thereafter we can see that what is the status of your box. It's kind of self-analyzation, right? Here you can upload the QKView file once it is available. Yeah, it's there.
Yes.
Just a moment. QKView file, right? Now you can download it. Save file. It's saved with the name of support.qkview file under downloads. I'll go ahead and we'll get it uploaded. What was that? Okay, support.qkview. Perfect. Support. Was on desktop. So go to this one. So now it will get uploaded, right? Upload QKView. So get it uploaded over the iHealth portal. From there, you can analyze your QKView file. So that's the QKView, right? You can download it. In fact, you have, in version 14, they have added one more feature that even you can add iHealth credentials over here, right, guys? Provide your username and password like this, right, guys? And thereafter, to save, and then you could just say, while creating at same time, it could also upload directly to the portal if this big IP has internet accessibility, right? So if this big IP is having internet reachability, then it can automatically upload this QKView file over iHealth portal. So you will not require to upload it manually. That is also possible. Right. So let it upload now, and thereafter, I mean, in between, let me discuss the TCP dump command now. Right, guys? So what I will do, let me start these three, and then like all devices have been started. Okay, fine. So it's been uploaded. Normalizing now this file. Until then, let me just have access to Big IP using Putty as well. So that we can execute the TCP dump commands. For TCP dump, it's quite easy to execute the TCP dump to save your captures, right? And even you can have advanced TCP dump commands as well. I'll share these links with you so you can look at the commands and you can execute them as needed. iHealth is still analyzing, so let it analyze your QK view file.